The year 2020, I'm making a video review for every new movie I watch, whether in theaters or at home, and on June 16th, I watched Burning Cane. Welcome to my year in movies. This is Talking to Myself. So Burning Cane is the directorial debut of Philip Youmans, who was 17 years old when he directed it. So we love being 23. He wrote and directed, pretty much crowdsourced, produced, put together this film himself with the help of the actors in the film. And the film follows the story of Helen, who is spurred on by her religious convictions. She tries to rescue her son and her pastor from their respective vices. And the film explores what it means to be religious. It explores the Black Southern experience. The film relaxes in a way. And I don't mean that necessarily the experiences themselves within the film are relaxing or that the film as a whole is relaxing, but it has a very natural pace. It settles into the world and it settles into these experiences. And the best way I can describe the way it feels to watch Burning Cane is to harken back to the 60s. You know, like those albums where like they have to be experienced from start to finish, lying on the floor, staring at the ceiling, and just like letting everything wash over you. That's kind of how the film feels. That's the quality the film possesses. The film is only 80 minutes long, and so you just gently float along even through the really tense moments of the story. The movie is visually striking too. It's genuinely transporting, but very natural at the same time. Youmans chose unconventional angles for some of his shots, but then other shots, it would feel like your eyes are naturally moving from person to person in conversation, or just kind of the way our eyes naturally drift in any social setting, which is really neat. It's really effective. And he chose to light the film through pretty much exclusively whatever light was naturally occurring in the setting, whether that be like lamps on, end tables, or outdoor light, or no light at all. There were several scenes that were just like completely shrouded in darkness, and it helps create the effect of actually being there. And I really think that's neat. And in some ways, that makes the film feel like a shared memory. And in some ways, it kind of is a shared memory because the film is clearly a very deeply personal one for Youmans. He has a passion for this story, for this small town in Louisiana. His humanity and empathy for these characters is ever present in every frame, in every thread of the story. And it reminds me a lot of coming-of-age movies, because of Winn-Dixie specifically, where like a child, usually between the ages of like 9 and 13, would kind of understand that grown-ups weren't infallible. It's about like that loss of innocence. But in the context of Burning Cane, it's through the grandmother's eyes, and so it's more about mourning the loss of that innocence. It's mourning the fact that her son has drifted so far away, and it's realizing that your pastor isn't a perfect person, but rather than coming to terms with that as a child, it's coming to terms with that as an adult, and wondering what you could have done differently to prevent that outcome. And speaking of pastors and religion and stuff, I deeply appreciate the way Philip Youmans integrates religion into Helen's character. You can very clearly tell when a religious character is not written by someone raised in that religious tradition, because for them it's a very shallow performative thing. Youmans understands that is a part of her. It's a part of how she makes her decisions, of how she thinks, of how she's motivated, and it comforts her. It's well done, finally. And part of that is due to Philip Youmans' writing, but it's also due in part to the performances of not only Kara and Kaya Livers, but it's also the performance of Wendell Pierce, who plays the pastor. They tap into the ache and struggle of what it means to live your faith. Because their lives are messy, and because their lives exist in a broken world, their faith is imperfect. And that was meaningful for me to see. Youmans actually understands religion on a much deeper level, and he understands it from inside rather than outside, and that shows. If this is what Youmans is capable of at 17, I can't imagine where he's going to be in even 5 years, even with his next feature film. He's very gentle with the subject matter, and it's such a beautiful experience as a whole. And this is kind of like an under the radar pick. I actually found out about it through Carl Broughton, who is the editor-in-chief of an online magazine called Film Days, but he also writes for like One Perfect Shot, Film School Rejects paper, and all of those. And he very passionately advocated for this film, and after seeing his pieces on it and other people's writings on the film, I had to check it out. It's on Netflix. It's 80 minutes. It's a really neat experience. It's very non-linear. It's very unconventional, but I think there's something that can be appreciated, again, just for its sheer transportive quality. I haven't been talking for very long about the film, but it's kind of hard to articulate. So what I'm going to do instead is there are a couple of pieces down in the description that kind of amplify and go in deeper to the film's experience and into what the film is conveying, specifically from the angle of Black storytelling, because I think this can really be considered a very critical installment in the history of Black cinema. I also see it as kind of a redefining of Southern Gothic, the ending especially, with just kind of the stark, almost abrupt ending, still having a very poetic, beautiful quality to it. You don't see many films have that kind of Southern Gothic feel without having like some sort of magic element to it as well. So having it be totally natural, but still have that kind of wandering and just melt into the credits was really neat. So again, because it's only 80 minutes, I recommend checking it out just for the experience. It's really neat. And again, I'm very excited to see where Humans goes from here. This has been My Year in Movies. Thank you for watching.